I thought I knew my son until one night. He looked me in the eye and said three words that shattered everything. On that night, an air of peculiarity enveloped everything. The house was unsettlingly silent, a stillness that weighed heavily upon the heart. As I busied myself in the kitchen, tidying up the remnants of dinner, I caught sight of him observing me. My son lingered at the threshold, his petite frame scarcely illuminated by the dim glow of the hallway, his eyes locked onto mine with a fervor I had never encountered before. With deliberate steps, he traversed the room and settled beside me, his proximity creating an unsettling tension in the air. In a voice as soft as a whisper, he uttered three words that shattered the stillness and revealed a threshold I was unready to confront. The evening unfolded just as any other had before it. Liam, my son, came home from school, his rucksack slung haphazardly over his shoulder, and his shoes left in a typical disarray on the floor. He had adopted an air of detachment, remaining quiet and contemplative of late, yet I dismissed it without a second thought. Ultimately, he was maturing. Young men often experience various phases. Wouldn't you agree? It was commonplace. That is what I reassured myself. Yet there was an unmistakable quality in the air that evening, something that set it apart from the ordinary. As I completed the dinner dishes in the kitchen, I found myself ensnared in the familiar rhythm of scrubbing and rinsing. The refrigerator's hum filled the air, accompanied only by the soft clink of dishes in the wash basin, a constant reminder that time was slipping through our fingers. Micah hardly uttered a word after supper, retreating to his room the moment he had finished his meal. I felt the weight of the week pressing down on me, yet I knew I ought to reach out and inquire about his day. My thoughts wandered, oscillating between the mundane tasks awaiting my attention and the deeper reflections that hovered just out of reach, until a profound stillness enveloped me. It was not the serene kind that descends at dusk, when the household sinks into a soothing stillness. Negative. The silence enveloped me, a weight pressing upon my shoulders, instilling a sense that I was on the brink of an indescribable experience. It filled me with a sense of unease, as though a tempest was brewing just beyond the edge of sight. I dried my hands on a dish towel and stepped into the living room, anticipating the sight of Mike either hunched over his video games or lost in the pages of a book. Yet, the room lay shrouded in darkness, except for the beam of light that illuminated me alone. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as though time had come to a halt. A surge of adrenaline coursed through me, my heartbeat accelerating as a subtle weight began to build in my chest. Micah had consistently been the more reserved of my two children. Yet, this was unlike anything else. The atmosphere was thick with an unvoiced tension, evident in the depths of his gaze, which seemed to hold secrets yet to be revealed. There was a sensation that pulled at my core, as if I were teetering on the brink of a precipice. I found myself torn between the urge to understand Liam's sudden change and the instinct to create emotional distance. My voice resonated in a way that felt strange, almost as if it belonged to someone else. He remained silent at first, yet I noticed him take a deliberate, measured step in my direction. His unshod feet glided silently across the hardwood floor. He had forfeited his usual sense of assurance. The Micah standing before me was a stranger, unrecognizable in his essence. He stood apart. As he settled beside me on the couch, the atmosphere seemed to grow denser, filled with emotional tension that neither of us could define. He was nearer than he had been in ages, yet the warmth I expected between us was absent. Something in the air felt strained and unspoken, like a shift neither of us could name. I turned to face him, my heart racing, a tumultuous blend of anxiety and intrigue swirling inside me. "What's going on, Liam?" I inquired, attempting to sound casual, though my voice betrayed me with a slight tremor. He remained silent, and the quiet lingered between us like a taut cord. The intensity of his gaze enveloped me, suggesting he was grappling with a choice of considerable importance. At long last, he broke the silence that had stretched on for what felt like an eternity. His voice was gentle, nearly a whisper, and it sent chills racing down my spine. "Mom," he started, and I could sense the burden of his words, the struggle of a truth that had been simmering within him for far too long. "What is it, sweetie?" I whispered, a tremor of fear lacing my words as I awaited the reply. He cast his eyes downward, nervously toying with the hem of his shirt. It felt as though he was summoning the strength to voice the turmoil that had been weighing on him. The silence stretched on, and I understood that whatever was about to escape his lips would catch me off guard. "I need to tell you something." At last, he locked eyes with me, and the intensity of his gaze sent a chill down my spine. It transcended mere adolescent awkwardness. There was a profound depth to his silence, a palpable fear etched in his gaze. Fear of me, of the truth, and of the hidden secret he was on the verge of disclosing. In that moment, a realization washed over me. I was utterly unprepared for what lay ahead. My breath caught in my throat, and I stood at the brink of a precipice, peering into an unfathomable abyss below. My son, whom I thought I understood completely, was no longer the child I had nurtured. Whatever he was about to reveal held the power to shatter everything we had ever built together. It could change us irrevocably. And then, in the stillness of that moment, he uttered the 3 words, "Mom, I apologize." It felt as though the very earth beneath me had crumbled away. My mind spun, struggling to grasp the unexpected flood of feelings. Sorry for what? I regret my recent distance. Sorry for locking me out. The words hung in the air, shrouded in ambiguity, amplifying the weight of the moment. Confusion swirled within me, igniting a desire to probe deeper, to unravel the mystery behind his statement. Yet, the intensity of his gaze suggested that this was merely a glimpse into a much larger, hidden truth. My heart raced, and my thoughts scattered in a myriad of directions. The ensuing silence felt stifling. I sensed the heavy burden of those 3 words pressing down on me, shattering the fragile illusion of safety I had crafted for myself and our family. Liam's apology transcended a mere confession. It marked the beginning of something far more significant, something I was not ready to confront. "What do you mean, Liam?" My voice trembled, betraying the turmoil within. The terror that had taken root deep in my chest now surged forth, mingling with confusion and a heavy, suffocating dread. Then, with a slight quaver in his voice, he began anew, his words tumbling out in a rush as if they could no longer be contained. "I never intended for it to unfold this way, yet here we are, and there's no turning back." He paused, glancing away, his eyes wandering in search of something elusive within the confines of the room. The atmosphere felt stifling, as if the very air conspired against us. I sensed the walls tightening their grip, the space between us diminishing with every fleeting moment. And then, akin to the calm that precedes a tempest, the silence surged back with greater intensity. What Micah was sharing, whatever hidden truth lay beneath, was merely the beginning. I found myself unready for this moment. I was unready to confront the truth. Most importantly, I was resistant to altering my view of my son. And yet, beneath the surface, I sensed that this moment, this night, would herald the conclusion of everything. I believed I understood. My heart raced within my chest as I sat frozen on the couch, gazing at my baby. His words, those 3 simple words, lingered in the air, laden with significance that eluded my comprehension. I had always taken pride in being a good mother, convinced that I knew my children better than anyone else. Yet, in this moment of clarity, I grasped the depth of my misjudgment. I had not truly known him, not in the way I had believed Liam. My voice barely rose above a whisper, the name slipping from my lips like a plea for an understanding that eluded me. He averted his gaze, fixated on the ground, his fingers fidgeting restlessly in his lap. It was evident he wrestled with his thoughts, searching for the right words, yet I sensed that whatever he might utter next could unravel the very essence of our shared reality. "I can't find the words," he murmured, his voice trembling. It was never my intention for things to unfold this way, yet here we were. I couldn't deny the reality of it. My thoughts spiraled in chaos, a torrent of nightmarish possibilities racing through my mind, each one darker than the last. What had he done? What secrets had he unveiled? I yearned to comfort him, to envelop him in solace and promise that all would be well, but my hand lingered motionless at my side. Doubt clouded my thoughts, leaving me uncertain of what to trust. "Liam, please talk to me," I pleaded, my voice tinged with desperation. I yearned for him to share his truth, to unravel the silence that hung heavily between us, an insurmountable chasm that words seemed powerless to cross. He inhaled deeply, his hands trembling, and began to recount the camping trip from last month, his voice a mere whisper. "I withheld the entirety of the truth from you. My intention was never to cause you pain, yet the time has come for honesty." A knot formed in my stomach. A camping trip. He had gone with his friends and their families, among them his best friend's older sister, Emily. At that time, it seemed inconsequential. I had placed my trust in him, believing he was merely a typical teenager navigating life and creating memories. Yet, in that moment, as he uttered each word, the fragments of the puzzle started aligning in unforeseen ways. "I don't know how to express this, Mom, but Emily kissed me," he admitted, his voice trembling beneath the burden of his revelation. It wasn't just a fleeting kiss either. It seemed genuine, and I allowed it to unfold. My breath caught in my throat. Emily, the elder sister of his best friend. I found myself struggling to comprehend the situation. Emily had been a part of my life for years, always embodying the politeness and respect one might hope for in a daughter. Yet, this revelation was far from what I had anticipated. My thoughts raced as I tried to process his words. My son, Liam, had kissed her. Even more troubling was how he described the moment, as if it had confused him in ways he didn't expect. "But this was just an experiment, right?" I inquired, striving to maintain a calm demeanor, convincing myself that this was merely a fleeting phase he would eventually outgrow. I had to accept it, or I would lose my grip on reality. Micah shook his head, his gaze weighed down by shame. "It wasn't just that, Mother. It left me confused. I didn't understand the feelings it stirred, and that scared me." I found myself at a loss for words. The new Micah was a puzzle I couldn't quite piece together. The boy I believed I understood so intimately had unveiled a facet of himself that felt foreign. Now, I found myself tasked with gathering the fragments of a reality that appeared splintered, like a mirror fractured into countless shards. He spoke, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "It has occupied my thoughts ever since. I hesitated to share this with you, Mother. The thought of disappointing you loomed large, yet I could no longer bear the burden of silence." His words enveloped me, heavy and suffocating, like a leaden shroud. There was a rawness in his confession, a deep-seated fear and shame that resonated within me. Though anger bubbled beneath the surface, urging me to shout and seek clarity, I understood that I had to hold back. He was my son, and now the moment had come for me to choose the role I would play in his life. What kind of mother would I become? "Liam," I finally found my voice, though it trembled with uncertainty. Words eluded me. The weight of it all was overwhelming. "I know," he whispered softly, his eyes brimming with sadness. "I never wanted to cause you pain, Mother. I had no intention of causing harm, but my thoughts kept returning to her, and I didn't know why." Fear gripped me. His vulnerability pierced me like a dagger, and I could sense his anguish and confusion. This was more than just about what happened. He was opening up about emotions he didn't yet understand. A fragment of his being continued to unravel the complexities of his identity, seeking clarity in his desires and learning to traverse the intricate labyrinth of feelings that accompanied his growth. I inhaled deeply, striving to anchor myself amidst the tumult of my emotions. "Hello, Liam. Much has transpired. Yet, I wish for you to grasp this. Your actions do not determine your essence. You are not a bad person. Yet, this is crucial. Relationships and boundaries hold significance, and it is essential to honor both your own feelings and those of others." He nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I understand, Mama. I never intended to hurt anyone. I simply didn't know how to navigate the situation." I pulled him into a tight embrace, sensing the gravity of his words. He remained my son, the same little one I had cradled in my arms, who had blossomed into someone I barely recognized. Yet, as I embraced him, it dawned on me that this was a pivotal moment for us both. I whispered, "You're going to make mistakes, Liam." My voice trembled, but it did not signify my surrender. "We'll navigate this journey side by side. You are not alone." He nodded, shivering in my embrace. "I deeply apologize, Mom. I'm uncertain about how to fix it." I pressed a gentle kiss to the crown of his head, my heart weighed down by the understanding that our bond had shifted in ways I had not anticipated. Yet, as I cradled him in my arms, a singular truth resonated within me. We shall confront this challenge side by side. The path ahead promised to be fraught with challenges, yet we shall persevere. And perhaps, just perhaps, this was the moment that would define the man he was destined to be. "There's no need to concern yourself with repairs at this moment, Liam," I added softly. "We shall proceed gradually, embracing each step along the way. Simply assure me that your honesty will remain unwavering, regardless of the challenges it may bring." "I promise, Mother." His voice trembled with emotion, leaving me to ponder whether he truly grasped the gravity of his words. Yet I sensed we had embarked on a new chapter, one where honesty and understanding would serve as the foundation for all that lay ahead. As we sat in that moment, the heaviness of his confession lingered, and I came to a profound realization. No matter how harsh the reality was or how difficult the path might become, this was my son. As his mother, it was my duty to stand by him, to nurture, and to love him through it all. Even if the way forward was unclear, I was certain we would confront it together, more resilient than before. The atmosphere in the room was stifling, as if the air had thickened with all that remained unspoken. Micah sat beside me, yet the space that separated us felt vast, like an ocean. His confession, those 3 simple words, reverberated in my mind, playing on a loop. I kissed her. A part of me yearned to scream, to lash out, to demand how and why this had happened. But deep down, I understood that anger would serve no purpose. The confusion, the pain, the sense of betrayal twisted in my chest like an inextricable knot. I cast a fleeting look in his direction, grappling with the whirlwind of revelations that had just unfolded. My dear, unsuspecting son had shared a kiss, and it was with none other than Emily. I had watched her blossom from childhood, her presence woven into the fabric of my family's life. In a heartbeat, everything felt shattered. This was no mere kiss. It marked the beginning of a complex web that eluded my comprehension. Why? The question slipped from my lips before I could rein it in. Why haven't you shared this with me earlier? Why hold back until now? Liam's eyes darted around the room, deliberately avoiding my own. He shook slightly, his fingers clenched so tightly that his knuckles blanched. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mom," he murmured. "I didn't want to let you down." Initially, I was oblivious to its significance, yet concealing it weighed heavily on my conscience. The raw vulnerability in his words resonated with me in ways I hadn't expected. It conveyed more than mere guilt. It was a profound disgrace. This realization unsettled me more than any reflection I had encountered in my own visage when grappling with the harsh truths of my own existence. I sank into the couch, my mind a tempest of confusion. What comes next? That question reverberated within me, relentless and haunting. He was my son, my flesh and blood. Yet, I found myself staring at a stranger. The boy who once sought my counsel and chuckled at my silly quips seemed to have disappeared, leaving behind an unfamiliar figure in his place. A fragment of my being longed for the uncomplicated days of yore, when clarity reigned and I could cling to the comforting facade that all was well. Yet, the present was a tapestry of uncertainty, and the familiar would forever elude me. I extended my hand, hovering just above his, caught in a moment of indecision. My heart yearned to offer solace, to whisper reassurances that all would be well. Yet, deep down, I recognized the truth behind the facade. It wouldn't be all right, not right away. The shadows of unresolved questions loomed large, and the scars were too fresh to ignore. "Do you regret it?" The inquiry slipped out almost reflexively. I found myself torn, uncertain of what response I truly sought. A part of me yearned for him to admit his error, to confess that it had merely been a fleeting lapse in judgment. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was far from simple. Relationships, emotions, and feelings do not adhere to such straightforward rules. Maybe it wasn't about regret at all. Perhaps this was a journey of self-discovery for him. Mike lingered in silence, his eyes wandering toward the horizon. He finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know. I'm uncertain whether it was a mistake or if I was merely coming to terms with something within myself. The gravity of his words enveloped me. Was he coming to terms with a revelation about himself? What did that truly signify? Could this be the inception of something grander? A facet of his identity surfaced, one he seemed ill-equipped to grasp, or was this merely a fleeting moment destined to fade as quickly as it had manifested? I looked at him, my heart heavy with the understanding that there remained a vast expanse yet to be explored. Despite my yearning to protect him from my shortcomings, I understood that the burden was no longer mine to bear. He had outgrown the small boy who relied on me for every little thing. Instead, he was evolving into a person with his own aspirations, challenges, and identities. A knot tightened in my stomach. So, Liam, what comes next? What lies ahead? His eyes met mine, and for a fleeting instant, I caught a glimpse of the child he once was. I once knew the one who still relied on his mother. Yet, the uncertainty in his gaze was clear. I'm not sure, he confessed softly. I'm not sure what happens anymore, but I can't keep pretending that nothing has changed. I can't just forget about it. I swallowed hard, the knot in my throat rendering speech impossible. Could I truly let it slip from my mind? The notion seemed foreign, nearly unattainable. How could I ever erase the memory of my son crossing a boundary I hadn't even known was there? How could I feign normalcy after those words echoed in my ears? Liam, I don't know how to fix this, I whispered, my voice trembling. I find myself uncertain about how to bring resolution to this situation. I long to support you, yet I find myself at a loss in understanding it all. Emily may never appear the same to me again. The anguish in his gaze deepened, and I understood just how profoundly this was consuming him from the inside. He too felt the sting of pain. My fury, trepidation, and disbelief were entirely justifiable feelings. Yet, they were unable to conceal the truth that my son was enduring his own pain. I never intended to cause her pain, he murmured, his voice rich with emotion. My intention was never to cause pain to anyone, particularly you. This was never my intention. The depth of his remorse tugged at my heartstrings. He appeared just as bewildered as I was, struggling to comprehend the consequences of his choices while wrestling with feelings he wasn't prepared to face. As I sat here, grappling with the chaos of it all, I found myself, his mother, seeking to unravel the tangled threads of understanding. Perhaps that was the secret ingredient. At this moment, clarity was not a requirement for me. It was unnecessary for me to possess every answer. I inhaled deeply, seeking to find my balance once more. Liam, we shall navigate this together. While I may not possess all the solutions, my presence is here for you. We shall navigate this challenge side by side. He gazed at me, his face a canvas of conflicting emotions, caught in the delicate balance between relief and skepticism. Are you truly implying that? I nodded, my voice a blend of softness and strength. Indeed, we shall navigate this path together, yet it demands patience and will undoubtedly bring some pain along the way. Yet, we shall embark on this journey side by side. In uttering those words, a realization dawned upon me. The journey of growing up was intertwined with pain, uncertainty, and dread. Neither of us felt the urgency to uncover all the answers immediately. Yet, after what felt like an eternity, we found ourselves confronting the unknown side by side. The ensuing days unfolded in tranquility, marked by extended moments of deep reflection. Micah and I exchanged fewer words, yet each syllable carried an unspoken bond between us. Uncertain of what lay ahead, I had come to terms with the fact that the journey of healing could not be hurried. Each of us would need time to process, forgive, and heal the fractures that had formed. One evening, I observed my son as he sat on the porch, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun was slowly descending. His expression had shed its confusion, yet the ache remained, haunting the depths of his gaze. I positioned myself beside him, our shoulders grazing softly against one another. We remained silent, yet the tranquility and warmth between us spoke volumes. "You are not alone," I whispered softly. Eventually, the words flowed forth like a soft vow. Mike remained silent for a moment, yet there was no need for him to say anything at all. His hand brushed against mine, and for a brief moment, we lingered in silence, letting the heaviness of the past few days envelop us. It fell short of perfection. The journey was fraught with challenges. Yet, we were granted the chance to mend. That sufficed for the moment. In that instant, I understood that regardless of the pain or doubt we faced, our connection would remain unyielding. Though it may bend and stretch, its sturdiness will forever endure. For love, in all its fragile beauty, possessed an uncanny ability to pull us back in.